This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carranante.
Hello, welcome to the Yanks Go Yard podcast, where the New York Yankees are still alive. I'm Adam Weinrib, joined as always by Thomas Carranante, 2 o'clock Eastern on a Monday or a Thursday. So you know we're here on YouTube and then afterward on your favorite podcast platforms, and very convenient timing to do a show because the New York Yankees have one game remaining against the Boston Red Sox in this here wild card postseason series. I can say that for sure. Rodón in ink. Definitely not going to be 2 games. Guaranteed to be 1. Winner tonight takes it all. The starting pitchers, Cam Schlittler making his 15th career start, Connelly Early making his 5th career start. The Yankees have played 2 polar opposite games, one in which they got dominated by Crochet, unsurprisingly, and then gave the game away in key moments and revved back up and then powered down again, and Aaron Boone made some big mistakes, one of which they tried to give away. People characterized yesterday as the Yankees trying to give it away. I don't know. It just felt like they were playing an extremely tense baseball game with another talented baseball team. The Red Sox felt like the ones trying to give it away yesterday. And Cora did everything that people got mad at Aaron Boone for doing in game 1. So for some reason, we're evened up here. This did feel like destiny. And now the fate of both these franchises for this year falls in the hands of someone who was not up in early July. And Connelly Early showed up in September for Boston, and he's their choice by default. It's him, Kyle Harrison. Cora ran the bullpen into the ground yesterday. The Yankees bullpen is also run into the ground because they don't have a bullpen. So the guys who you want to see have already been used 2 days in a row. Mistakes were made at the end of game 1. Extremely indelible moments happened in the Bronx at the end of game 2. I would call, as if you're an objective observer, both of these first 2 have been great theater. If you are a Yankees fan, game 2 was one of the 5 best games of the post-dynasty Yankees.
Yeah.
Like post-2009. I mean, I haven't seen a game like that in forever. Edge of your seat if you lose it. You're crestfallen if you win it. You're energized right down to the last pitch. That was exciting as hell. Thomas Carranante, I will ask, though, did you enjoy even 1 second of game 2? Like, was that fun at all?
The Ben Rice homer, and then that was it.
That was fun.
That was awesome. First inning blast. It validated all of our complaints from the night prior. We should start with game 1. How about we go back to game 1 for a second? We talked about the lineup. We talked about Crochet. We talked about not getting too fancy. After the fact, I looked into the numbers too, and the Yankees went with this crazy lineup. Obviously, it wasn't as crazy as we initially projected with Austin Slater in there, which
who's not even here. He's not on the roster. And you get, I mean, people complain whenever the Yankees lose. People complain about something that I know they'd be complaining about if it had happened. So I heard a bunch of like, where was Austin Slater in the 9th?
Of course, yeah.
And it's like, oh, I'm sorry they didn't put a guy who's 3 for 25 in against Aroldis Chapman with the bases loaded and 2 outs for Trent Grisham or with 1 out for Jazz Chisholm. Like, I mean, if Aaron Boone had put ice cold Austin Slater in there, we would be losing our minds, because I promise you it would not have worked. They didn't even carry him on the roster. You never know, right? Weird stuff happens in October. But I'm going to take my chances with Stanton, Jazz Chisholm, and I wish Trent Grisham hadn't come up there, but I'm still taking Trent Grisham over Austin Slater. But
100%.
You're second guessing everything when the Yankees lose. It's only natural to do that, and it gets to a point that's pretty ludicrous, which is where we were at after game 1.
Yeah, and I don't think it was overblown, because the Yankees have gotten cute before. They've done silly things in the playoffs. They haven't trusted just putting the best players out there previously. And when going up against someone like Crochet, I think we cautioned. And I don't think this is revolutionary, because it's just basic baseball knowledge. And this is where I'm fully convinced, like, someone in the Yankees front office has a job, and it's to go on social media and it's to report back to Brian Cash and be like, what are the fans saying? Mm-hmm. Oh, they want this. They're not getting that.
I'm doing that.
We're not going to make sure the fans aren't getting ahead of what we're doing. Like, we know this to be kind of the blueprint that they follow, and it's very bizarre. But you have a lineup, and yes, I understand the lefty-righty thing is big with them, but there wasn't that much of a difference between Garrett Crochet's ability against righties and lefties. Why? Because he mostly only faced righties all year. So his sample size against righties was 617 at bats versus 145 lefty at bats. Yes, the stats were different. 166 average for lefties, 229 for righties, 654 OPS for righties, 455 for lefties. At the same time, if you are downgrading the offense from Ahmed Rosario, from Jazz Chisholm to Ahmed Rosario, and from take your pick, Caballero / Goldschmidt to Ben Rice, you are making the lineup worse, and the righty advantage at that point does not matter. It mattered for Goldschmidt. I will tip my cap to that. But then at that point, maybe you're taking Austin Wells out because he's had trouble against lefties. And you put Ben Rice in at catcher. Like, I don't know. But taking two of those bats out was crazy. And it, again, did not matter because Crochet against righties, they're still batting 229 with a 654 OPS. That is terrible. So you just need to have the better talent in the lineup to work good at bats, raise his pitch count, try to get them to exhaust him or get to him early. And the Yankees obviously didn't really do that. Anthony Volpe had the one home run, and then after that, it was just waiting for Boston to score. So everyone's blaming Aaron Boone for that. I think that's a Brian Cashman front office thing. I don't know what the Max Fried decision was in terms of the Brian Cashman, Aaron Boone thing. I wasn't as incensed about Max Fried coming out. I was more incensed that they just didn't start the reliever with a clean inning because I don't like the split inning duty, and it never works for this team. It hasn't worked for them in a very long time. I would argue that Max Fried was definitely losing it. He was laboring a little bit more. He wasn't as accurate. He had some shaky innings with traffic on the base paths. So I look at it that way and I say, okay, like this, I think was the right call. And I don't think it's fair to say, oh, well, Alex Cora let Garrett Crochet in there for 117 pitches. Yes, he retired 17 straight batters. There was no competition. It was not, you could argue that Max Fried's 102 pitches were somewhat equivalent to Garrett Crochet's 117. I think
they're a different species. Like Garrett Crochet could have gone another 5 innings. I feel like he could have thrown 200 pitches. We don't do that anymore. And he struggled with his command against Austin Wells in his very last inning. But what did he do on his final pitch of the day? Reared back, hit the corner at 100 miles an hour. His final pitch was his best pitch because he's the best pitcher in baseball.
Yeah. So it wasn't a fair comparison. And also, like, Fried is not as much of a power pitcher as Crochet. So it just didn't feel right. But then again, I don't know if Luke Weaver's the right guy there. 9.64 ERA in September. Has kind of been shaky. Had bad stats against Cedon Rafaela.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I just look at the biggest problem to me was the offense. Once again, applied zero pressure on Crochet. They let him off the hook in the first inning. That was the biggest thing to me. Once you didn't score in the first inning or work the count for him even more, I would have been fine with 0 runs and 30 pitches in the first. But the Yankees did absolutely nothing after getting 2 batters on. And then the 9th inning was an absolute disgrace. So I looked at game 1 and I said, I have no faith for game 2 because I was fine with them losing game 1, just not in agonizing fashion. And they made it agonizing from inning 1 through 9. And I said, I don't know how you come back from this in game 2 unless somebody screws up.
Yeah, your hopes in game 1, it's, sometimes you can't count the opposing pitcher as a death sentence. You can't just walk in and be like, it's Crochet, we're going to lose, we can move on to the next one. Because in that case, you'll talk yourself out of a series real quick. But their only hopes were, 1, Crochet in his first postseason start looks flustered. The control's not there. He looks a little tired. He looks the way he did in that weird Cleveland start in September. September was Garrett Crochet's worst month. He had an ERA in the mid-3s, right? He's an incredible pitcher. That's your worst month. You're pretty good. But your only hopes were Crochet isn't himself for some reason. You have a chance. And your second hope is you win the baseball game 1-0. Because once you get 1 run and once you get a 1-run lead against that peak version of Garrett Crochet, you can't really expect more, which is a daunting task for a Yankees team that's had a bullpen that has struggled to hold leads all year. And a 1-0 lead is the most difficult lead to hold. It means your offense didn't do a semblance of its job, held down by the opposing pitcher. It wasn't a factor. It meant you scratched across what you could and had to persist on it like a team crossing the Oregon Trail with crackers and salted meats or whatever. Like, it's not easy. And they got to the late innings. And like you said, Crochet was obviously Crochet. The 2 innings where they needed to do something were the first with first and second, nobody out, and he got out of it. And once they let him off the hook there, you had to move on to option 2, whereas win a 1-run game, win a 1-0 game, win the scariest game ever. And the other inning was directly after the Red Sox took the lead on the Nick Sogard play and Masataka Yoshida knocking in both instead of just one. It would have only been one if Aaron Judge was a little bit more confident in his right arm. Once that lead is taken, you need to do something on Crochet in the bottom half. You need to get him out of the game as quickly as possible. You've already failed your task of getting him out quickly, but you need to make sure Alex Cora can't go directly from Crochet to Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah.
You need to make sure that the cute lineup construction that had Ben Rice and Jazz Chisholm on the bench, you can use both those guys in the 8th against Garrett Whitlock, who hasn't pitched in forever. And hopefully somebody just runs into one. It's a 1-run deficit at that point. Rice and Jazz will both be aiming for the porch in that situation. You got to hope one of them gets it. Maybe somebody's on base. Maybe the Yankees steal a lead. But they went down on 6 pitches in that half inning. And that was, to me, almost a worse job than not scoring in the first. Giancarlo Stanton hit a 106-mile-an-hour double play in the first. Can't give that a standing ovation, right? But I would say it was worse just letting him immediately off the hook after taking a lead. It felt like the Yankees were surrendering, and they apparently were not surrendering based on how the 9th inning played out. They did give themselves a fighting chance. But of course they did. Nothing was more obvious to people who've watched the Yankees, and the Yankees play the Red Sox in the playoffs, and the Yankees play bullies in the playoffs. Then when David Bednar gave up a 2-out, Story on base, stolen base, Ribby single to Bregman, as soon as they got the insurance run, I was like, they're going to make this interesting off Chapman. It's going to happen. They're going to put runners on. And what I didn't expect was them to make it quite that interesting. I thought it'd be first and second, 1 out, and they have the winning run at the plate, but they bomb and whatever. But bases loaded, no outs. I did not see that coming. I did not see that inning playing out the way it did, but also I did because we're conditioned to it. It's hard to argue, though. Again, the people who wanted pinch hits, the people who wanted, Jazz out or whatnot. I thought the biggest Aaron Boone mistakes, like you said, I did not think going to Luke Weaver was a huge mistake there, other than the fact that they did not pay attention to the Rafaela data. They love all data, but they didn't care the Rafaela hits like 400 off Luke Weaver.
And hasn't Weaver been better against lefties too?
Yeah. I didn't love or hate Weaver, but I definitely would have gone to the bullpen there. I would have gone batter to batter. And so I would have tried to get Fried past Rafaela. And if he gives up a game-tying home run, then obviously that's not as bad as what ultimately happened. So you can't even really be that mad at it. But I don't think that was the worst Aaron Boone decision. I think it was, I would have given him another batter. And if he gets Rafaela, I would have given him another batter. But I wasn't counting on Fried to get me through the 7th. And I wasn't going to be scared of the bullpen in that situation. And I don't think Max Fried is Garrett Crochet. I think they are two different people with different sets of capabilities. I'm even thinking about Garrett Crochet tonight, if I'm being honest with you. Like, 1 inning from Garrett Crochet, 1 day's rest. It's crazy to do, but he's somebody who I can't imagine fatiguing. Like, what does fatigued Garrett Crochet look like? He throws 100 effortlessly. So we'll see. I don't think you can even compare the two. My problems were, again, I don't think you can argue with getting bases loaded, no outs for Stanton either. Like,
no, what's the other option?
What more do you want? That's the dream. That's the dream, is having Giancarlo stand up with the bases loaded against a lefty, even if that lefty's a Aroldis Chapman. He doesn't come through. Stanton has a bad game.
It happens.
But Jazz taking that AB after coming in for defense in the top of the 8th, it's just a strange use of him.
Yep.
I thought Aaron Boone's biggest miscalculation was the moral impact of sitting Jazz Chisholm in that game. You get the awkward post-game interview. He's clearly upset. He's not long-term upset, but he was upset in that moment. And I thought even worse than benching him was using him the way that you did, putting him in for defense, ensuring he wasn't going to get an at-bat in the 8th because Rosario was the last out of that very bad 7th. And then Rosario, who's 3 for 7 with 2 home runs against Aroldis Chapman, doesn't get to bat. You were making sure Jazz couldn't face Garrett Crochet But I hate to break it to you that Aroldis Chapman is also a top 5 pitcher in baseball this season.
He's relief Garrett Crochet at this point.
He's basically the same dude, and you don't have the conviction in that first move to stick with it through all 9 innings. So you get Jazz as a defensive replacement, but also a guy getting one cold at bat off the bench against the scariest lefty bullpen arm in the world. Shout out to Jazz for not striking out, but the second run would have scored if Giancarlo Stanton, or if Paul Goldschmidt had been pinch run for.
Yeah.
But I thought benching Jazz, silly. The way they used Jazz, even sillier. And credit to Jazz Chisholm. He could have sulked in game 2, and I feared it, but I probably shouldn't have, because I know above all else, he is a competitor. He didn't seem to mind. He didn't love not playing in game 1, but what he really hated was not playing and losing.
Yeah.
Not playing and winning, I think he would have been fine with, based on what I know. Fine comparatively, would have felt strange, would have questioned things, but he wouldn't have done a press conference looking at his closet of jackets if they had won the baseball game and he hadn't really been a part of it. He would have felt odd, but he would have said whatever helps the team. And I was worried about what his mentality would look like entering last night's game. And then, he didn't do much other than make the biggest play of the game on defense and make the biggest play of the game on offense.
Incredible. Look, that was the Yankees towing a fine line. You saw they talked about it in the postgame. Aaron Boone texted Jazz the night before to tell him he wouldn't be starting. Maybe that's standard protocol. I don't know. I'm not on the Yankees. I don't talk to Aaron Boone, but that is a crazy way to tell your player who just had a career year that he is not playing against the team's biggest rival to open the postseason. It's crazy. It's objectively crazy. I don't care. That's an office conversation. That's something that's provided with a little bit more context, is what it is. And I understand where Jazz is coming from. Every right to be frustrated. I agree. I think he probably would have been like, yeah, we won. Pretty good. Pretty fun. Yeah. But we're sitting here and you want to trust the organization, right? But you're looking at the plan and you're like, I don't feel right about this. So Jazz is sitting there probably like, yeah, man, I got to trust my manager, but I don't agree with it. Why would I agree with it? I am better than everybody. I've had a really good year. I am confident that I can rise to the occasion, and he proved to do that the next day. So I get where he was coming from. Look, he is able to express himself in any capacity. I don't know what I would have done there. I didn't like the optics just because it's the Yankees, and someone's going to cut that and split it, and that's what it's going to look like, and everyone's going to say, oh, this is a baby. Oh, look, this is Aaron Boone causing a problem, which it did look like. It very much looked like that. Thankfully, he responded with his play. It didn't matter. And there we are. But you look at the lineup situation, and the team went out and got righties at the trade deadline to combat lefty pitchers. And I think they reversed the philosophy. You start with all your best players, like we talked about on Monday. If they all go 0 for 2 and 0 for 3, then you start making the changes. Then you start putting pressure on Crochet in the 5th and the 6th to see if that changes anything. Because then at that point, it's bullpen be damned. Doesn't matter who they bring in. You have the guys that you have. You got to start with your best foot forward. And or you could have went the opposite way, right? If Rosario and Caballero and Goldschmidt are not getting hits at that point, then pull all those guys in the 3rd and say, this is what we're going with now. We're gonna try to, but they went with the worst possible way they could have done it, and then it really felt like Aaron Boone just put Jazz Chisholm in to say, hey, I got him in the game, so what are you complaining about? And then he's not fresh. His mind is not in the right place. He has to go up against the best reliever in baseball in the most pressure-packed moment of the game, and it's not fair. It's a shitty position to put one of your best players in who doesn't deserve that. So whatever, it's over. We got game 2. Game 2 was last night. Game 2, again, was fun for 14 seconds, and then it was not fun after that. Carlos Rodón, very good start. Pretty much almost all you could ask for. He's not infallible. We know that he sometimes has a tough time in big moments. The emotions, I think he's done a great job of controlling. I think David Cohn was talking about it a few weeks ago on the broadcast, saying he's done a lot of work on that front to make sure that he's dialed in with the right intensity, but not too much like he was last year, where he kind of lost himself against the Royals, or getting too down on himself, which is what we've seen the first couple years of the tenure. It was 1 inning blowups either in the first inning where he would give up 4 runs, or he would get through 3 clean, and then the fourth was a disaster, and then the Yankees had no choice but to go to the bullpen. So
he kicked
again,
the dirt. He kicked the dirt at some point yesterday, like finished wrong, and was looking at the mound and was like messing around with it. And I was like, oh, he's about to he's gonna lose it.
Yeah, I think with that intensity, look, like, it is what it is. It's in that moment. It's tough, but the fact of the matter is that he has not pitched fewer than 6 innings in 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
So he was ready, and they got the most out of him. I think he should have been done after the 6th, just with how things were trending. Then he runs into that trouble. Thankfully, they get out of it and create that marquee moment. So everything happens for a reason, they say. But yeah, got to give Carlos Rodón credit. Look, Aaron Judge not hitting for power, but getting on base constantly, putting bat on ball. Got to give him credit. And the defensive play by Anthony Volpe on the Devin Williams, that was a great appearance, and Anthony Volpe coming down with that play and turning to incredible. With this game in its entirety, I was most nervous with the Fernando Cruz appearance, just because, Yoshida coming up in that moment. Yoshida's killing us over and over again, and the Red Sox continue to devalue him for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I thought that was through. Incredible play by Jazz. Saved the series, saved the game. Nate Eaton not going home there. I don't know why, but thank you, Red Sox. I thought that Trevor Story hit was a bases clearing double. Ended up being a fly out to Trent Grisham. And then I thought the Rafaela ball was out in the 9th, but it was not. So, it was a nerve-wracking game. To be honest, I was pessimistic. I was waiting for the moment that they were going to lose. I wasn't sitting there saying, oh, this is it. But you have the feeling within you saying, okay, like, the Red Sox aren't going away. They're putting traffic on the bases. Trevor Story's coming through in these bullshit moments, because it's Trevor Story, of course. And you can't help but have that in the back of your mind. And again, the Yankees didn't apply enough pressure when the Red Sox kind of had the most disadvantaged situation. Brian, why can't I say his name? Bello gets pulled. Brian Bello gets pulled after 2 1/3, and then Cora starts to burn the bullpen. And look, in my opinion, 4 runs isn't enough there. Like, you put the pressure on the starter, you chased him early, and you only score 2 more runs after that. Like, this is the problem with this team in the playoffs. The offense doesn't do enough, and then it's on the pitching staff to have razor-thin margin for error, and it's not fair. So I blame the offense in game 1. Yes, you have to blame Luke Weaver, right? Luke Weaver, that was the worst outing we've arguably seen from Luke Weaver outside of what was that? The game where he gave up 5 earned runs in a third of an inning.
It was like horrible. In Minnesota, he was abysmal.
Yeah, Minnesota. This is a top 3 worst Luke Weaver outing we've ever seen. So yes, he deserves blame, but also the offense can't be clinging to a 1-0 lead. With the opportunities that they had. And then last night, they did a great job getting after Bello in the first inning, but then they go essentially silent against the bullpen for one more inning for Bello, and then a couple more innings with the bullpen, and it's like they're not coming through, or they're not getting enough traffic on the bases, and then it's on the rest of, it's on Rodón to burn into the 7th inning. It's on the bullpen to be perfect. This is where the problems arise. The Yankees do not have a perfect bullpen. Their bullpen is, in fact, bad. Like, if the Dodgers didn't exist, the Yankees might have the worst bullpen in the playoffs, and it's not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
So, the offense, again, continuously cannot be putting the pitching staff in this position. The pitching staff deserves a lot of credit. They've worked hard all year. The bullpen has been taxed. The starting rotation has pitched valiantly with all of the situations, the injury situations that have occurred. The offense needs to step up. There needs to be a few of these 10-run games in the playoffs, and if the pitching staff can't cling to that large lead, then that's a different story, but the offense is not even giving them the chance to. So, game 2 rundown, tight butt cheeks the entire time. Glad it finished the way it did, but the bat's got to do something. And if I'm being honest, I don't like that there's a soft throwing lefty on the mound tonight. I don't.
He throws a little bit harder than we're giving him credit for, though.
Yeah.
He's not Garrett Crochet, but he's not, 88, 89.
I guess what I'm saying is that his secondary pitches can dial into the mid 80s, and that's where the Yankees run into trouble.
He's a very good pitcher.
He's awesome.
We'll preview tonight. I think the inexperience this is the first road stadium he's ever pitched in. Major League Stadium. He pitched in Sacramento and he pitched in Tampa at the George M. Steinbrenner Field. So that to the postseason, to a winner-take-all game, is a lot. And we know Cora won't hesitate to pull him if he needs to, but I don't think he's gonna be intimidated by the moment. Although I have been laughing at people asked his old college coach about that, and he was like, yeah, he's made for it. He'll definitely rise to the occasion. You think his old college coach is going to be like, he has no balls, no chance? Like, what do you think his old college coach is going to say? You're going to poll poll his family members about whether he can handle the moment, and they're going to be like, absolutely not. He peed his pants on his 8th birthday. No chance. Not me.
No, I tried raising him to be better, but he just can't handle any moment. So
not made for it. Thanks for asking me. I'd go with a different pitcher. My son isn't it. You're getting all that coverage and myth making because that's what no one's talking about Cam Schlittler's 15th start. Everybody talking about Connelly Early's 5th start. I think both pitchers are very good, but I think Alex Cora, this is in the please make it matter category. You're right that the Yankees did not put up the runs that they should have yesterday. And the Red Sox gave them a terrible Cedon Rafaela bunt. And the Red Sox gave them a drop fly ball by Jarren Duran in left field. Yeah. And the Red Sox gave them Nate Eaton. He doesn't even have to make a good read. He just has to be past third on the play Jazz made, and he can score easily if the ball gets away. Like, I don't give Alex Cora claimed that, we're on the field and you're not, and we know if he could have scored and you don't. Alex, he could have scored twice, man. Like, he didn't have to be sprinting full bore. Like, if Ben Rice corrals the ball, then maybe he's dead to right. Maybe, but I don't think Ben Rice is even thinking about that. And Ben Rice has a first percentile arm strength. So in the worst case scenario where the play is made at first, but Yoshida is safe, Ben Rice is not looking towards the plate because he fielded the ball cleanly, and Nate Eaton still has a chance to score and demoralize the Yankees. John Boy and Jake did a video about how the Red Sox love to smell blood in the water against the Yankees and take the extra base and start feasting. That's that moment. That's Nate Eaton being like, blood in the water. No matter what happens here on this rip, I am scoring. I don't care if it gets up the middle or gets caught or gets thrown. I am running because the Yankees aren't thinking about this, and I am. So again,
Ben Rice is also not a full-time first baseman. Like, that should have been in the scouting report.
Alex Cora teams, like, people were giving him so much credit for taking the extra base on Aaron Judge. I'm going to push back on that and say, what team wouldn't take the extra base on Aaron Judge right now? He's been hesitant with his arm for a month and a half, but that's not a secret. We know that. He's not throwing full strength. He's not used to it. He's trying to manage an arm injury. So I don't think that's Alex Cora genius. I think that's the basics. And I think Alex Cora genius would be coaching up Nate Eaton to not look at the first base coach, not look at the third base coach, know exactly what to do here. If this ball's rocketed up the middle, you are trying to score. Because you're Nate Eaton, you're fast, you're going to get it. And I do not understand why he didn't score, and I do not understand why Alex Cora lied to us about whether or not he was able to. Which brings me to the please make it matter department. They may have gotten through yesterday's game without a bullpen implosion. Garrett Whitlock throwing 47 pitches, not going to pitch today. But everybody else basically held their own. Matz and Wilson, they're going
through a lot. They threw
23, 24 pitches. Yeah. So they didn't give up a ton of runs, but the entire middle of the Red Sox bullpen was taxed yesterday. Aroldis Chapman went up and down yesterday and didn't come in. That's not an appearance, but it's not nothing. Aroldis Chapman went an inning and a third in the first game of this series and had real trouble before, again, miraculously finding the plate and all of his pitches in the middle of the inning with the bases loaded and nobody outs. And as a Yankee fan, a lot about Aroldis Chapman this year has been unpredictable and sort of frustrating. Yeah. That was predictable. He used to do that all the time, just being like, you've never seen a worse pitcher. You've never seen a better pitcher. There it is. So that was familiar. But he was up and down yesterday, and the whole middle of the bullpen was used on a night when the whole middle of the bullpen definitely did not have to be used. Mm-hmm. I appreciate the aggression. I'm not going to say Cora shouldn't be managing aggressively with another game to go, because I do like trying to step on throats. and saying this ends tonight. I'm going to pull out my game 3 stops in game 2 and I don't care because I want this baseball game. They almost had it. It almost worked. But Brian Bello being treated as some middling 3rd or 4th starter, Brian Bello basically being treated the way Brian Bello is treated against teams that are not the Yankees did not sit well with me. He gave up a 2-run home run to Ben Rice in the first. The Yankees had his pitches. Cody Bellinger was waving down Rice in the first. Judge was waving down Rice the next time he came up against Justin Wilson. Like, the Yankees had the Red Sox signals. They were picking up on that. Good job. But that's not enough for me to take Brian Bello out in the 3rd inning. 28 pitches. I've never had such whiplash of being concerned that the Yankees weren't working his pitch count enough to noticing that he was leaving the game. 28 pitches in the 3rd, I was saying he's going to go 8. Like, Jesus Christ, they're never scoring him off again, and he's going 8 on 102 pitches. And then he's out of the baseball game.
Yeah.
So it might not matter, but today is Connelly Early's 5th major league start. He's going to need Justin Slayton and Steven Matz behind him. Otherwise, it's him and Kyle Harrison and Peyton Tolley to the back end of the bullpen. Garrett Whitlock's not coming out of that door. I don't think.
That would be crazy. And look, if he does, he's not going to have his best stuff. It's just, it is what it is. Like, that's fact. You can't throw 50 pitches as a reliever the night prior and come out slinging the next night. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. So please make it matter. The Yankees bullpen is taxed, but the Yankees bullpen also doesn't go deep. They don't exist. Like, you're beyond this layer, you're going to Weaver again, who didn't pitch yesterday and was really hard to stomach in his first outing. Camilo Doval, who was trending in the right direction, but who I don't really want in unless it's a 4-run Yankees lead. And then Tim Hill, who's a specialist, who has to be stretched out because there are no more specialist rules at this point. But he's going to be facing Wilyer Abreu and Masataka Yoshida probably today. There's got to be a lane for him. They're probably not going to sit those guys again. I think Eaton and Sogard are probably done as starters. But there's not much there. They're going to have to go to Williams and Bednar, if not also Cruz. Cruz is the one who is most on the edge of disaster. But none of those guys are fresh as a daisy. Bednar is a crazy person. He's going to want to come out and he's going to say, I can get 5 outs. I can do whatever you want. Devin Williams, I have to be careful with. If you told me a month and a half ago that Devin Williams against Alex Bregman starting off the 8th inning would not only be something the Yankees would do, but something that they should do, I would have told you were crazy. Yeah. The Yankees have really no options other than to go with these gassed guys. Same with the Red Sox. It's just another way that it's a completely even-handed game 3, although the Yankees have home field advantage and the Yankees have the momentum from yesterday's win. The difference is both bullpens are spent, and one of them was spent by choice. Alex Cora decided before the game, this is what I'm going to do with my second best starter, with a guy who owns the Yankees historically. At the first sign of trouble, if I don't see something I don't like, I'm getting him out of there. And I think the plan was sound but silly. The execution was dumb, and it left the Red Sox shorthanded for today. And please make it matter. Just make it matter.
This is where you have to take advantage. The Red Sox have literally fed families by taking advantage of Aaron Boone's mistakes. Or again, like we talked about in game 1, Alex Cora backing Aaron Boone into a corner with the lefty batter situation. Like, Aaron Boone thought he was going to have an opportunity to bring his lefties in, and he never did. And he did it anyway, and it looked really stupid. And then he ended up using 2 or 3 inferior bats against a really good pitcher, and the Yankees never got to see what would have been the case if they had just played all of their good players. So Alex Cora doesn't usually make errors like this. And look, if the plan worked, we'd be having a different conversation. But like you said, we were sitting there and we were genuinely shocked Bello was coming out of the game. We were genuinely shocked that they were staring down the barrel of using their entire bullpen a night after they used one reliever. And I understand they had the luxury to do that and go for the jugular, but they didn't have the lead. It's not like Bello had a blow up 2 innings and threw 50 pitches and they said, we have we're in a bad position right now. Like, thank God we have our well-rested bullpen because we can now make this a game and keep it within reach. They just prematurely made the decision with whatever the plan was, according to Cora. He said it was a premeditated call, and they end up using their second best reliever for 50 pitches, and they use 5 other arms. So, like, it's a scenario where the Red Sox, again, they use one reliever in the first game, and then they had the luxury of seeing how game 2 played out, and they opted to not see how game 2 played out. And I don't know if, what is that a go for it all strategy in that moment? To me, it's not. Alex Cora knows his team better than I do. But I also know Brian Bello against the Yankees, and that seemed to be the strategy. See what he could do through 4 innings.
That's your biggest advantage in that game is that not only it's not going to work against every team you might play in a playoff series, but the biggest advantage against the Yankees is short series. We're starting Garrett Crochet, who's going to come in second in the Cy Young this year. And after that, we're starting a guy who owns your ass. It's not going to work. It's not going to work in Toronto, but like, do we need 3 starters? We've got the best one in the series, and we've got a guy who you can't solve. And they took away that second advantage on purpose.
Mm-hmm. You had, like, Bello had a 2.35 ERA and 11 career starts against the Yankees. My move there, I would have brought in Kyle Harrison and saw if he can give me 3-4 innings. That would have been the play. He's a lefty. They went to Justin Wilson anyway, another lefty. So, like, what? Why wasn't that the play? I don't know. I don't know, but I feel like it was a misplay. Could be wrong. But then again, I don't think the ace in the hole was relying on Connelly Early in game 3 with now a bullpen that is not at full strength. So call me an idiot, but that to me doesn't seem like the winningest of formulas. Either way, this is where the bats need to come out. We talked about this also on Monday when it was revealed Luis Gil would be missing the rest of the postseason with an elbow injury. That was the game 3 starter. So if Alex Cora did what he did last night, knowing Luis Gil was starting the next day, and he had Connelly Early as somebody who could follow him, then I would have said, okay, we're fucked. He's got 3 different ways to go here, and we don't know which one is going to work, but he's got options. He had one option last night, and that was to let Bello go as long as he could, unless it was an absolute disaster. And he opted not to. So now tonight you have a guy making his 5th start. Again, a very good pitcher, but left-hander. That benefits you if you're the Yankees, apparently, with right-handed sluggers. And now you're probably not going to see Garrett Whitlock, and the bridge to Aroldis Chapman is going to be a lot longer than it was on Tuesday night. So I don't know. To me, I'm not saying it's the Yankees series to lose, but the advantage is clearly on their side. And if they lose this game in a fashion where they don't hit or they get out bullpenned by the Red Sox, it's not going to be a pleasant conversation. And someone's got to be held responsible. We know that's not going to happen, but if you are able to have the gumption after game 1, after all that you've done to blow that game, to come back in game 2 and clutch up the way that they did in those few moments, both offensively and defensively, and then you come out in game 3 and you lay an egg, or you come out in game 3 and the top options you're leaning on, which are plentiful, don't come through. To me, that's a messaging thing, because this team collectively has been in a lot of big moments together. And I understand there is some validity to players not being clutch or players not being able to handle the moment. If the Yankees are not used to the moment by now, first of all, just being the Yankees as the Yankees, the moment is there. You can't avoid the high stakes. You can't avoid the questions. You can't avoid the media. You can't avoid the headlines, whatever you want to call it. So that's already kind of baked into it. This team has been in the postseason every year since 2018, with the exception of 2023. This is not an unfamiliar spot. This team went to the World Series last year. This team has other players on the team that came from different MLB squads that have also been in the playoffs. So, like, it's not foreign. It's not a foreign concept. It's now. So you do it now, and then you really have to prove to this fan base that you can handle these rivals. Because again, We lamented about it a couple days ago. This team has been eliminated by Red Sox, Astros, Rays, Red Sox, Astros, Dodgers. Not a single the only teams they defeated across that span were Twins, A's in a one-game playoff, Royals, Guardians. That's not to discredit any of those teams. Like I say it every time. It's really not. But if any baseball fan is looking on paper to say, oh, the Yankees were the number 1 or the number 2 seed this year, and the Guardians or the Royals were the 4 or the 5 or the 6 seed, yeah, the Yankees should win that series. And they won, and credit to the Yankees for winning those series, but every other matchup they had where the gap closed or they were facing a better team, they got mopped. And now you're in a situation where you are better than the Red Sox. This team is, on paper, better than what the Red Sox have. I think the Red Sox have more of the grit. I think the best way Trevor Plouffe put it was they have more dog in them, and it's just true. Nate Eaton doing what he's doing against this team is ridiculous. Trevor Story doing what he's doing against the Yankees is ridiculous. Bello, in terms of what he's done to the Yankees historically, is ridiculous. He's a good pitcher. He's not that good, but this is how the Red Sox legend continues to grow, because these random players come in and they run circles around the Yankees, and you're wondering how and where are my top guys doing this to the Red Sox? It's Giancarlo Stanton, and then second place is all the way down here. So this is where you need to just do it. You're not overmatched. I would still say it's a fairly even matchup. I think you're totally right. Everyone's disregarding the fact that Cam Schlittler has had less than a half of season under his belt, and he's a rookie. He's done a great job. I think he's I think still the Yankees' biggest issue here is not having Luis Gil on the roster. And I think the Red Sox, if they had that matchup advantage with somebody who kicked the Yankees' ass that often, they would have figured out a way to get someone like Luis Gil on this roster for a position to face the Yankees. And the Yankees didn't do that. Luis Gil is not on this roster. He has a .99 ERA against them in 5 career starts. I understand that's a small sample size, but it's 1 run or fewer per outing. Like, there is something to be said about that, whether it's a 4 or 5 inning start or whether it's a 2-3 inning relief appearance. I don't care. There's something cosmic there that you have to follow. The Yankees opted not to. Now it's 2 rookies going at each other. I have confidence in Schlittler. He's proven in this small 14 start sample size that he can handle the moment. There's been a lot of coded must-win games that he's gotten on the mound for, where it was like, Yankees need to stop the bleeding. Yankees kind of need to show up this opponent right now because things aren't looking good. And Schlittler battles through his outings, and he goes at hitters, and he's not afraid to attack, and he is not afraid to get out of trouble. He rarely melts down. So I like having that characteristic on the mound tonight. But having 3 times as many starts as Early doesn't really change the matchup for me. It's essentially the same experience going up one another, and the rest of the playing field is level after that. But the Yankees have the better team. They have the MVP candidate. They have Jazz, who's 30-30. They have Stanton, who's arguably the most fearsome hitter in the postseason when he's on. Hopefully he gets back on tonight and we could see some of that magic, but I just don't know where the Yankees go from here if they lose this game. I don't.
Yeah, the Tigers game is the blueprint for Schlittler in terms of lost the first 2 games of the series. Bullpen was terrible. Things going off the rails a little bit. Your next game is at Fenway Park. If you go there and get swept, you might be a game up on a playoff berth at that point. This is a must win, not literally, but figuratively. And he showed up and had what is probably the best start of his MLB career to date, going 6 1-run innings with a whole mess of Ks against an American League playoff team, a team that has a chance to advance today in the next round, despite struggling mightily all September long. He and Connelly Early are different pitchers, but I think you're not going to find a more narratively interesting Game 3 clash than this. People are throwing a little shade at it because it's not Roger Clemens and Curt Schilling, but it is 2 guys who probably didn't expect to be here. Probably, maybe in their heart of hearts, they hoped they would be, but they're guys who were depth options to start the year, middle of the year. Cam Schlittler's behind Garrett Cole, right? This is Carlos Rodón, and Cole has already pitched in this series if the Yankees rotation breaks down the way it should, but instead Cam Schlittler is here, and he's the right call based on the personnel available.
Yeah.
And he has largely stepped up and taken the ball and been unfazed, and he is from Boston, proudly. His family supports him, but there's an element here that I don't mind of grew up in Boston. The Red Sox did not choose him. The Yankees did. The Yankees saw a path forward for him. Cam Schlittler was in the Red Sox backyard at Northeastern. He started against the Red Sox in a spring training game with Northeastern. They watched him, and they did not see a projectable body they could work with. And the Yankees, they round after round, and the Yankees saw something they loved, kept in touch, unlocked 8 miles an hour to add to his average fastball, and here he is. Connelly Early is a College World Series pitcher, with a history, the University of Virginia. He's not scared of the moment either, but I'm asking the Yankees to make the bullpen choices from yesterday matter. I'm also asking them to make the 10-game gap, 14 starts versus 4, matter, because Schlittler has been home in big games against Baltimore at the end of the year, trying to basically a playoff game last Saturday, trying to win to force Toronto's hand. He has been in a home playoff game against the Detroit Tigers. He has been in a home playoff game against the Blue Jays on a Friday night, and it didn't work.
No.
He struggled there. But that was the first instance where I would say, hey, big game for Cam Schlittler. Didn't have it. Ton of foul balls. Couldn't retire. Got the first 2 in the first inning and then lost it.
It was mostly good at bats. Like, that was just really good at bats by the Blue Jays.
And his next 2 opportunities to exist in a similar circumstance, he has dominated. And his Saturday start was his best or second best in the major leagues.
And they needed to win that game.
They needed to win that game. It's been the playoffs for the Yankees for a week and a half. If not longer, based on that gauntlet, they went, but the whole September was postseason relevant for them. Connelly Early has pitched in Sacramento at home against the A's, and his best start by far was his debut. He went to Tampa and struggled a little bit, came home, faced the Tigers, was pretty good. But he is 20 innings above his career high. He's a 5-inning starter at this point for the Red Sox in good times. Like, that's been their goal, getting him through 5. He's gone 90, 88, 67 pitches. The Yankees have to make that matter too. They have to look at the opponent and say, really good pitcher, mentally strong, thinks he's ready for this, might be, but we have to show him that he's not. Road environment, 45,000 strong, do or die playoff game, first true road game in Major League Baseball. He could hold it down. He could be legendary for a short period of time. The Yankees have to work as hard as possible to make sure that he is not. And a lot got caught up in changing the lineup around and messing with, okay, McMahon in the bench, Caballero in, Rosario in, Jazz out, Rice, Wells, that I think we forgot that was Garrett Crochet. They were terrified. They tried something. They got too cute. Connelly, we've transmuted that into just being, okay, when the Yankees face a lefty, I guess they're screwed. Aaron Judge likes lefty pitching. Giancarlo Stanton likes lefty pitching. These are your 2 best players and your 2 most important hitters. They need to make an impression on this game. Judge has been hitting for singles. I'll take it. I'll take the first 2 games of Aaron Judge. Yeah. You won't find someone less mad at the first 2 games of Aaron Judge than me. But Judge and Stanton has not shown up to this series yet, need to put their stamp on this baseball game against a lefty with 4 starts to his name. Somebody who works into their wheelhouse and someone who feeds into their power. Early has not allowed a home run in the major leagues yet. The Yankees need to make sure that either they get him out of the game quick enough that we don't notice, or they need to make sure that changes tonight. Those are the most important goals for them.
Yeah, I think play like adults is the best way to put it. You have a team of veterans, largely, and I think also younger players who are a little bit wiser beyond. Like, let's not forget, Austin Wells had the most important hit last night.
Sure did.
A really good at bat, and he turned on that pitch that was on the inner half of the plate, and he got the barrel on it, and that was a great piece of hitting. And I know we've been down on him largely because it hasn't been a good year, but his last month of the season was really good. He hit like 276, I think, with an 8 OPS, 800 something OPS. And now we're seeing the results, but I think we're seeing the results we expect, I think. But for the most part, guys like Ben Rice, I think wise beyond his years. Caballero's relatively young, right? He's not like he's been in the league for a couple of years, but he's still got like 4 or 5 years of control.
Yeah.
So I would consider him. I wouldn't consider him a veteran. So you look at that and it's like, yeah, the rest of the outfield is veteran. Like Cody Bellinger's been to multiple World Series. Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Paul Goldschmidt, whether he's playing or not, you have that influence around you. The Red Sox don't necessarily have that in droves like the Yankees do. So like you got a rookie pitcher on the mound for you, and forgetting the number one, like Cam Schlittler, I think he seems like a pitcher who's wise beyond his years. He's able to rise to the occasion. He's able to dial it up when he needs to, and a lot of other young pitchers can't say that or do that. So play like adults, and I think this game goes the way the Yankees need it to. But the longer you leave the door open for the Red Sox, credit to the Red Sox. They're a pain in the ass. They come through when they need to. They put pressure on, and they don't stop applying it until they get their way. And the Yankees need to avoid that. The Yankees need to jump out to a lead, and they need to preserve it in some capacity. Doesn't have to be a 7-0 lead, but it can't be a 1-0 lead going into the 7th. Like that's disaster for the Yankees. It's got to be a multi-run lead, and you got to be feeling good about the options you're going to after that. Again, I know it's not the craziest baseball analysis, but the Yankees oftentimes put themselves in a position where the door is left crept open for the opponent, and the opponent has a number of ways they can go about tactfully achieving their goal, and they do for the most part. Like we've seen it happen in the postseason a lot. So speaking of that, do not fuck with this lineup, please. Should be pretty simple. I don't think you need more righties in this lineup against Connelly Early. You go with your best guys, and then if you have to pinch hit people later, you have those weapons off the bench. You have Caballero off the bench. Aaron Boone has said that's his favorite way to use him. Great, use him that way. Anthony Volpe's been. I think that's all we're gonna say.
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about his really impressive turn on the double play that Devin Williams threw away yesterday. Almost. I don't want to talk about his really impressive turn on the Jazz feed on the Bregman double play that allowed them to stay in yesterday's game. And I don't want to talk about how he rifled a single up the middle in the 8th and homered off Garrett Crochet and ripped an important single yesterday to extend Garrett Whitlock's outing. They didn't score any more runs, but there's a difference between Garrett Whitlock throwing 30 pitches and Garrett Whitlock throwing 47. Mm-hmm. And that difference is great Anthony Volpe and Ryan McMahon at-bats. So the at-bat against Zach Kelly when he was up 3-0 and got blown away by 97-mile-an-hour Ched on the 3-2 was terrible. But also, Zach Kelly, that's just some classic Red Sox bullshit. I feel like
leveling up in a fucking random moment.
I feel like Frank Grimes, my favorite Simpsons character, who just prances around going, I can do anything because I'm Homer Simpson. Nothing happens to me. And then grabs wires and dies whenever Alex Cora does anything. Because it's like, I can bring in my worst reliever, Justin Wilson, with guys on base, and he'll get 110-mile-an-hour line out to the right fielder because I'm Alex Cora. Like, I can bring in Zach Kelly, and he can fall behind 3-0 to Anthony Volpe, then throw 2 fastballs down the middle, and then 97 on the corner for the first time in his career because I'm Alex Cora. So I don't even really blame Volpe for that. It's more a classic, like, I don't even know how that happened, but it did moment. But again, we're not talking about Anthony Volpe. We can't talk about Anthony Volpe. There were just some Anthony Volpe moments that made me go, oh, interesting. Yeah, intriguing indeed. And those moments, you might have shared them as well. Viewers and listeners.
He has been. I think that's the best way we're going to put it, and that's the way we're going to handle it throughout the rest of the postseason. But
he's gonna start tonight.
Yeah, of course he is.
He has been.
There's no reason. It's a lefty pitcher. This is where you have him. There's no platoon tonight. Like, you could have argued the platoon last night, I guess, but they didn't do it. There's no reason to do it tonight. Lineup for the most part should be the same. You cannot sacrifice Ryan McMahon. Those plays, dude. I know Caballero did fine at third base the other night, but
yeah,
this is do or die game. There is no gambling here. Caballero is not a lesser player, but Ryan McMahon's a full-time third baseman who plays night in and night out tremendous defense. It's just what it is. There is no sacrificing any of that. And to take Ben Rice's bat out of the lineup, I don't care if you want him as a pinch hit option later. You need the thump now. You're not saving the thump for later. You need to, again, get out to a lead tonight, apply the pressure, be done with it. They're not going to do that. I know they're not going to do that, but that needs to be the game plan.
I mean, I'm terrified. If you're not terrified, you're not paying attention. This is what you play for. I would always rather have a crazy ass playoff game than be out at the end of the regular season. I would always rather have this kind of stress, slightly thinking ahead to, oh my God, they won a huge baseball game. The Toronto Blue Jays are waiting for the winner of this series. Could it be us? It technically could be. Theoretically, can't let that answer your head or dance in it, but I'd much rather have those thoughts than what Mets fans are going through right now. Making the postseason is almost more stressful for me than being in the postseason, is what I say until there's a game like last night. And then I'm like, oh, nope, this is the most stressful thing that's ever happened. Never mind. Making the postseason was not this stressful. This is crazy. And tonight will presumably be pretty crazy as well. I think it's reasonable to say I hope that the Yankees take multi-run leads and hold multi-run leads so that I can have a little bit less anxiety. I don't think
a lead.
I don't think it's crazy to say there are obviously plenty of outcomes here that I would not enjoy, and they're possible. They're plausible. Don't want to talk about them. I do feel like it's an interesting matchup. It's more interesting than if it's Schlittler or Giolito. I wish Luis Gil was here for an inning tonight. I don't think Paul Blackburn serves much of a purpose on this roster, but in my ideal world, the way this series ends is Paul Blackburn soaking up the last two innings with the Yankees up 8-1. He does it well because the first Paul Blackburn game was the worst Yankees game of the season, arguably, when they could not stop allowing runs to the Boston Red Sox on a Saturday afternoon, coming off the 1-0 Brian Bello game, and Blackburn comes in, they're making errors, and the slop turns to more slop, and it's like 14-1 or something, and it just feels like the season isn't just over. They're looking to next season, and we're crowning the Red Sox. And everything changed a little bit the next day. I miss Dustin May. I wish he was starting today's game, but we can't always get what we want. I miss Jordan Hicks. I wish he was appearing in today's game, but we can't always get what we want. But what we can get is Paul Blackburn, who probably shouldn't be on this roster, but who's turned his season around in the last couple of weeks, being the one on the mound to end a Yankees blowout victory. That would be phenomenal. Can't count on it, though. Multi-run lead, grabbing and holding a multi-run lead feels like the most reasonable thing
foreign concept
I can hope for. Foreign concept, but theoretically could happen to a Major League Baseball team, and maybe will happen in the New York Yankees tonight. 8 o'clock, 2 hours later than the previous games because the Los Angeles Dodgers beat the Reds yesterday. That's a good time slot. That's when good baseball happens. The best baseball from yesterday's game took place after 8 o'clock Eastern. I've always said this. The bullpens are gassed 3 games in a row. There's no playoff series like it. I'll take this over the best of one wild card game because we would have lost that to Garrett Crochet and Aroldis Chapman. Yesterday was the first Yankees home playoff game win over the Boston Red Sox since Game 2 of the 2004 ALCS. Fucking crazy. Not series, home game win. 21 years. So history has already been made in this series. Can history be made with an exclamation point? Tonight is the night. The pitchers are unfamiliar. The circumstances are very familiar. And I refuse to make a prediction. I simply hope that the New York Yankees win their baseball game so that we can really put the clamps on the Toronto Blue Jays, who are up next in somebody's sights.
I can't wait for that. If
doing a big intra-squad game this week, and the fans were so hype, and as if that's some sort of indicator of October success, that front office advisor Gosuke Kato playing second base. The number of Blue Jays fan tweets I saw about that. Somebody's coming to get you, Toronto. Somebody, and I hope it's us.
I really do. I have reserved excitement for that. Hopefully we're talking about that on Monday or maybe even tomorrow. We'll see how this final game shakes out, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Seriously, join us on stream. Again, turn your notifications on. You'll know when it is. You'll get it on your favorite podcast platforms afterwards. There is one game remaining. The New York Yankees will not be going to Fenway Park for the rest of the season. Now it's on them to make sure that nobody else does either. We'll see you on the other side. Take care.